I am resident of Collinwood for YouTube, joined by fellow YouTuber Daniel Culver Killenberg. How are you, man?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing good. We're here to discuss the Resident Evil movie, Welcome to Raccoon City. So, Daniel, what did you think, man?
Oh, sorry, what was that?
What did you think? Sorry.
To be honest, I didn't think it was that good. I hate to say it because this is one of those movies, I really wanted to like,
Yeah. I'll tell you what was like weird. I really don't get the point of making Claire and Chris like orphans in this, and then setting them up as sort of not rivals, but I mean brothers have sort of a rivalry, and brothers and sisters could have a rivalry too. I get that, but like he was in that orphanage too. You know what I mean? Like I feel at times with some of these characters, it's sort of like, shouldn't you be more suspicious of what went on in there, considering they're taking you, away from somebody and they're telling you they're not really what they're doing? I feel like there wasn't good character focus, really good character writing in this.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. Like, and it was weird. Like, for those who haven't seen this, for some weird reason, like William Burke was in the orphanage.
Yeah.
And Claire meets Lisa Trevor. I don't even get why they even did that.
Yeah, this movie at times seems really incoherent, and I'll give you another one. After, like, when Claire gets in, I know I'm jumping ahead a bit, but we'll go back, I promise. But when Claire gets into town and she stops by her brother's, and they have this like kind of argument, and he ends up leaving because he's got to go do something. But after like the events start unfolding, like runs in, hides under a table. This little girl runs in, hides under with her. She goes, "Are you scared?" And I think the little girl says, "No, but you should be." I'm thinking, if these people are like turning, which that's sort of the thing I get is that they're turning. Like, why would you run and hide under a table? Like, I don't get that, like, at all. Like, it's, you know what I mean? It's weird.
Yeah, I agree with you.
What did you think of Wesker in this?
Oh man, Wesker, they totally screwed that character up. Like, he is working with Umbrella, but they're making it like he's all like, "Oh, I didn't know what they were doing." It's like Wesker, the guy that was helping Birkin in the games. He's one of those people who didn't know what they were doing.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing. Like, you and I have played the Resident Evil games. We played the first two. We've played the third one. We've played the remakes. My thing of this is, if part of me, well, maybe they're just trying to throw people off Wesker's scent because the people who played the games are expecting the heel turn. If you're so worried that people are just going to say, it's not shocking, then turn someone else heel. There's no Barry Burton in this, which I know you're going to get into too, but have there be a Barry and have him turn heel. If you're really worried about, well, Wesker's heel turn is too obvious because it's not only been done in the games, it's been done in the other movies because they entered, so if you're really worried about that, then just do it with someone else.
Yeah, I agree. They should have done it with someone else. And you're right. Even the Anderson movies got that right. it got it right in a way 2 times, because in the Anderson movies he was introduced as a bad guy, but then he turns on Alice in the 5th movie.
Yeah.
Oh wait, no, it's actually the 6th movie, but it's kind of weird. In the 5th movie, he supposedly becomes a good guy, but in the 6th movie, it starts off with, "Oh, he turned on us." Like, okay.
Yeah. It's like I really don't get like. uh, I don't. Here's what I'll say too. I don't think the problem with this movie is that the fact that they tried to combine two games and make it one movie. I feel you could have did that and still had a really great movie, but with this, the way they did this, it's just there was really there's no point other than there being an incident, a reported incident. There's almost they almost make it pointless for them to go to the mansion, and I don't know. What did you think about there being no Barry Burton in this?
I wasn't a fan. I kind of feel they could have used his character, because, like he could have stopped Jill from getting killed by Lisa Trevor, or actually wasn't in one of the books, didn't they say that Barry actually raised Chris and Claire?
They may have.
Oh yeah, but yeah, I kind of wish they kept Barry in this, because how, it depends on which character you choose to play in the first one. Either Barry's missing or Chris is missing. I always said if they made a movie based on the games, well, close to the games, I should say, they should have made Barry missing. Because obviously we know a lot about Chris, and Chris is going to become one of the main characters.
Right. I mean, that's the thing too. I think they have all these main characters, and I'm thinking to myself, well, why not? If instead of telling the story of the first movie or the first game, even which we all know up and down, instead of trying to aim for Wesker's heel turn, which everyone knows is going to come, because I could see people saying, no, you can't make it anybody but Wesker. I could see that too. But in the same sense, well, why not just start this in Raccoon City and have it set up post the zombies taking over the city? You have in the police station, you have Leon who's unconscious. You'd have Jill, and you'd have Chris, and you'd say, and Chris would ask Jill, "What is that thing?" And she's like, "I don't know. It killed Brad too." And you would see earlier and it's Nemesis. You would have it killing Brad like right in front of them, and they had to run to the police station to get away from that thing. And it's like, I don't know why. That's the thing too. There's not enough focal points in this movie. They're all over the place in this movie, and it doesn't help them either.
Yeah, I agree, and that's actually another thing I touched on when in one of our conversations on Facebook. Like,
Yeah.
Lisa Trevor was in the police department, but she was introduced in the remake of the first one, so it doesn't really make sense that she's in the police station in the movie.
Yeah, it's like here's what gets me too. Like, why not have? And I don't. Here's another thing too. I don't get, like they said the water was contaminated. Okay, that if the water was contaminated, it wouldn't matter if you had some immunity to it or not. From being born in a city doesn't mean you're going to be immune to the water, or no, they said sorry. Being the experiments in the orphanage made the people in the orphanage somewhat immune, which still made no sense, because it's like even if you were experimenting on somebody, eventually, a virus or this thing's going to take a hold of you. no one has that much immunity to something like that. That made no sense to me.
Yeah, I agree. I wonder if they're. I know with in the game series, like Sherry was being experimented on by her dad William,
Yep.
but see, if you notice in the game continuity, in Resident Evil 6, they reveal that she actually is affected by it. Now she has like super healing abilities.
Yeah, I'll say this too, that with two, I did like how paranoid. I'll give Birkin this. I do feel Birkin was a good heel for because here's the thing: the actor they had playing him has played heels before and is really a good actor. I liked him in this movie, but in the same sense, it's like it's so like you've touched on this too. They dumbed Leon down so bad it wasn't even funny. It's like nobody is this dense. Like nobody.
Oh, yeah, Green. He's supposed to be a cop, and that's weird because I read that if they make sequels, they're gonna make one based on Code Veronica or Resident Evil 4, which they're probably planning on both. But I can't imagine this Leon in Resident Evil 4. What is Ashley gonna get kidnapped from him tripping on a banana or something?
Yeah, I'm sort of wondering if somebody, you know, again, it's I won't say they didn't do their research because there's the monsters in this and they get those right. So I just think there's just some sort of communication error here where they're just like, you know what, we're just gonna make you the. I think that because this movie is dark, it has a dark tone to it. But in the same sense, when you have a character that goofy, that dim-witted, it doesn't matter how dark you make your movie, especially when you're not being consistent with it, consistent enough with the characters that are in your own movie. And now you have a character who's trying to make the audience laugh in a situation that's not even funny, that's not supposed to be funny. It's like, what the hell are you doing?
Yeah, I agree with you. Yeah, for those that don't know, Resident Evil is supposed to be more serious.
Yeah, it is. That's I really like I had like you know, I had high expectations going into this. I'm thinking, man, it would be really nice if we're sort of getting Jill, who's like, oh, like maybe has a broken arm or something, or is like messed up, and maybe Chris is with her. Maybe this time it's like her and him versus Nemesis, and he's hunting down the Stars members, and you got this zombie full of cities, or sorry, city full of zombies. Sorry, but that would have been good. Like if they're telling the story of how they got to this point, that would have made sense. But them them doing what they did with this, what did you like? They do make Wesker likable. That's sort of what gets like Wesker's challenging Jill Valentine to shoot like, something off a guy's head or something, and she points the real gun at him, and he's like, Jesus Christ, Jill. What did you think, man?
Oh yeah, that is true. Like, but I kind of think he's a little too likable because he's supposed to be a villain.
Yeah, he is. I think they're trying to set up that he's this likable guy. They're not trying to have you suspect his heel turn, but again, I think there's other ways to go about doing that, but not the way they did it. Again, there's other things you could do, or actually, there's a lot of things you could do. Like, okay, here's the thing. The one thing I like about the Resident Evil 3 remake game, how they say about Chief Irons has Jill under surveillance, and really it's Chief Irons and basically Eternal Affairs looking at her like supposed to be watching her because she's probably under investigation because of Wesker being bad, being corrupt. And if Wesker's corrupt, they're probably just investigating his team or the remaining members of it, really. So it's like, okay, why not start this movie off with Chief Irons and Wesker and say, well, why shouldn't I investigate your whole team? Because you have a bunch of ex-military dropouts. Some of these people were dishonorably discharged. And he says, I served with some of these people. They got a bum rap. And so he hires people, like when he got people recruited from the military, they weren't of high caliber characters. So they're all question marks. That's something you could do. But they listen to him because they respect the hell out of him. I mean, you could work that angle, but they don't even work that into this movie.
Yeah, I agree with you. And yeah, I I know I mentioned this in my review, so people who have watched my review probably know this, but he didn't even wear sunglasses. Well, I mean, Wesker didn't even wear sunglasses till the end. Wait,
Yeah.
I think I mentioned my review. Either I mentioned in my review or my retrospective, or both. I don't remember.
I know you mentioned it in the review. I was listening to that.
Okay, I know it's probably makes me look bad that I don't remember exactly which one, but yeah.
It's all right. I forget stuff all the time. It's like, what was that guy wearing? And like today, like I'm not sure if I got the hexagram color right for the dark shadow or the pentagram color right for the dark shadows thing. I know it would like appear on people's faces, but I wasn't sure what the color was. I'm pretty sure it was red, but again, I'm not so absolutely certain it was red. So, but you know, so it's that kind of crazy. But what did you think of the creatures in this movie?
I didn't think they looked too bad, like especially the liquor. I know
Yeah.
people were complaining about the bad CGI, but I don't agree.
I'll tell you one of my favorite scenes in this movie, and again, you know, they say there's good in every bad movie, and I do think that's the case here. When they go to the mansion, they're being surrounded by a horde of zombies. I think that was one of the best scenes. It was dark, you really couldn't see, shots are being popped off. It was creepy as hell, but it's like, okay, here you have a really good moment, creepy moment. Now, I feel again they hurt their own movie again with scenes of comedy, like when Leon is staring at the city burning, the people foaming at the like. He should realize what they are. Like it's one thing to like not to never see Night of the Living Dead or something, or I could see if like they're setting this movie in a world where George A. Ramirez Night of the Living Dead didn't exist because The Walking Dead's like that. But if you're gonna have a character not know what a zombie is, have him question like what the hell is going on.
Yeah, oh yeah, I agree with that. That's actually something that I always thought was weird about franchises like Resident Evil. It seems kind of weird that people don't know what zombies are.
Yeah, I think in a weird way, like the original Resident Evil is set in a world where George A. Ramirez, um, Night of the Living Dead didn't exist. I think that's what it is. I mean, I think I forget which one it is, the first one or the second one, in one of the diaries when you're reading, it says the word zombie, but it doesn't say the word zombie a whole lot in that game.
Oh, yeah, that's a good point.
It like when you, and here's the thing too. Here's why this is easy to forget too. The tyrant in the first game. I mean, when you see that thing, it's like, who the hell cares about zombie? Run the hell away from that thing.
That's true.
I mean, that thing is like, holy shit. I'll say this too. Why I say that I don't think them combining two games is a problem, or was there a problem. Silent Hill did this correctly. Like they can, for those who've never seen it, Silent Hill, the first Silent Hill movie, is sort of mixing James Sunderland's story and Harry Mason's story, but it's also adding this other character story to it, this woman's story. So there's a bit of her. She has her own monsters. She has some of Harry, but she has some of Harry's story, and she has some of James Sunderland's monsters. So there's a mix of all three, which I don't mind. That's what makes Silent Hill a really good movie. But with this, I don't know, man. It just, I'll say this too. I wish they would have, uh, instead of focusing on the orphanage, why not focus on, they should have started this movie off with broken vials of glass, and you see like the virus on the floor. It's leaking down into the sewer, and you see these rats licking them up, and they go down and they start biting people. They bite this worker who's working on the sewer, the checking the water main, and he goes up after he gets bitten. He turns and he starts biting people. That's to me how they should have started this movie. But no, they fucked it up. They didn't.
Yeah, that's way better than how they started. However, that is similar to how the first Paul W. Sanderson movie started, kind of. Well, not really exactly, but like, one of the scientists throws it, which is real later in the movie, but then it fills on the floor. But it's still different. What you're talking about is still different than that, but it could have been considered an homage to that too if they wanted to go that route.
Yeah, I do think that their explanation of like everybody turning makes, some of it makes no sense. Like it doesn't. I don't understand how you got like okay, I would understand, like it would have been better if they would have, instead of, by the time the team gets to the mansion, my understanding of that is some of the zombies already got out and were headed into town. Well, that would have been a better, if you would have just did that instead of this cheesy water explanation bullshit that I didn't really buy or care for. That I could have understood, because it would have took them, the way these zombies move and walk, they don't run. So it would have took them a while to get to town. So maybe a couple days go by. Hey, there was an incident a couple days ago. You guys need to go check it out. It's up at the mansion. As they're flying over, you see these zombies walking through the woods, clearing the forest, and you see the city, and they keep on walking. That's something they could have did. Did they do that? No, no.
Yeah, that sounds way better than the stuff they did.
I'm full of ideas.
And actually, I hate to bring this up, but did it seem like they made? I know you're talking about how they made Wesker more likable. Did it seem like they did the opposite with the other characters to you? Like even Chris and Jill?
Chris more so than Jill. I'll say this. Jill Jill to me is more the Jill we should have saw in West W and in Anderson's movies. Um, she was real badass. She was a hard ass. Her I liked. Um, I get I get why she didn't understand why Wesker was doing what he was doing. She shouldn't understand. She doesn't know he's a heel. Again, it's supposed to get into camaraderie that they all trusted him. And I get that, but there might be people who never played the games who don't though either. There's something you could put in a scene where there's a scene where Wesker and his crew are drinking 2 nights prior to them going to, or a couple nights prior to them going to the mansion. Just have them camped out at Wesker's cabin or something, or near the woods, and they're camped out and they're all drinking beer and all getting together. that's something they could have did for like a little moment where this is how they're all like a family. They trust each other. Okay, now somebody's going to betray that trust. And is it Wesker? That's something, that's a seed you could plant. Or Wesker's looking at his crew, knowing one of them's a traitor, but he doesn't know who. That's something you could plant. They don't do that. Again, there's things I to answer your question shortly. Sorry, I'm taking like the long way around. I like I like Jill's character. Chris, what I hate the fact that Chris and Claire are really just assholes with each other. And look, not all brothers and sisters get along. That's true. But I could see if it was just Claire in the orphanage and not Chris. That would have made sense to me. But again, I feel them having this orphanage angle, you know, I just feel that sort of. I did not care for Chris because him and Claire. Well, I feel they're trying to push Claire down the audience's throat when you already have one strong female protagonist, which is Jill. If you have Jill, you don't need Claire. You know what I mean?
I agree with you. To be honest, I've always considered Jill the main one of the well, basically the main female protagonist because she was one of the two characters you play as in the first one.
Yeah.
You know what? Oh, go ahead.
No, I was just going to ask you something. Go ahead, though.
Oh, you know what's actually interesting about? I should have mentioned this when we mentioned Barry not being in it. It's kind of weird that Barry's not in it, but they've referenced the Jill sandwich thing. Not exactly, but Jill grabs one of their sandwiches and says it's Jill's sandwich now. I know people are probably gonna be crap for not remembering who it was, but yeah.
He doesn't remember who it was because the movie's unforgettable.
I think it was Chris that grabbed it from.
It may have been. It may have been. Well, let me ask you this: out of who do you prefer out of Jill and Chris in this movie?
I would actually probably say Jill, and actually it's actually funny you're talking about it being like, forgettable is because Jill's one of the main characters I remember in this actually.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing too. Like, if Chris is in this movie, if Chris and Jill are in this movie, I don't think they make it. Wesker's people has more people to it. They only send 2 cops out there to go investigate, and they call that Bravo team. I didn't really care for that, but which I thought was, just like whatever. But I feel if you're going to have Jill and Chris in a movie together, especially when you're doing the first one, then hey, have them both as good, as strong characters. Just, hey, if you're going to make a hero out of one of these characters, then you need to pick one. If one of them, I think there's a consensus of if one's good, if they're both good, do they both have to live? And the answer is no, because that would be a interesting plot twist if you ended up killing one of them. Because it'd be like, holy shit, because there's no going back from that. But I just feel to dumb the character down is the worst thing you can do to any character ever.
And not only that, they didn't just make Leon stupider, for example. I mean, it's more stupid, sorry. And I said stupider. I didn't, that's technically not correct English, but anyway. Like Chris says, like, oh, you shot your partner in the ass. And something about his dad getting him in another job or something. I don't remember exactly what they said, but it's like, wait, you made Leon not only less likable, it's like he's that kind of incompetent now.
Right. It's like, really? Like, I could see, like, if they were going to have Leon in this movie, there's so many things they could have done. Instead of having Leon be a rookie, like a rookie on, the police force, why not have him be a new recruit for Stars? Have him joining Stars, and or he's wanting to join, and they're putting him through the training, and he has to go on the mission to the mansion too. He doesn't get killed, but he gets really badly messed up. You know, again, it would be something that they could do, but again, they don't do that either.
Oh yeah, that's true. Yeah, I guess people probably figured this out, but I edit my videos.
You're not like me. You see, you know this. I don't edit shit. No, nothing has changed since the last time you were on.
But, oh, I know I mentioned in one of the books that I think Chris and Claire were raised by Barry. I know the books are not canon, but how would you feel if they actually did borrow that in this movie instead of having them in an orphanage?
I wouldn't have minded that at all. But again, though, too, I just feel like you don't you don't need to have. They don't necessarily need to be from Raccoon City either. That's the thing. They could move. I've sort of talked about this with Halloween and any other franchise that involves a town or a city. People move to different cities. They move to different towns.
That's true.
So you could have Chris move to Raccoon City, or maybe he was already there for a while and he was expecting his sister to move with him, and by the time he's expecting her, or before he expects her, he goes to the mansion and that shit happens.
Oh yeah, that's true. Oh yeah, and another thing, I kind of do assume that Claire and Chris do get along because I mean Claire went to Raccoon City to find Chris.
Yeah, yeah. They argue though too. That's the thing.
Oh,
A
that's true.
lot. They like. I agree with you. Like she goes there to find him, but though too him and her, like, they're dicks toward each other. They like. It's one thing to like. And there's times like I could understand that, but it's like okay, like there's no. I would have understood that a lot more if Chris wasn't, if she wasn't from Raccoon City even, and she was coming in saying what she was saying. Like that I could understand, but no, they don't do that either. Like I get there's reasonable doubt within fictional characters have the reasonable doubt factor, and that's fine. But you need to have more than a reason to have reasonable doubt, other than I trust this like, well, that doesn't make sense to me. Why would you trust this over that? Like,
I agree with you on that. Another thing I wonder, I'm assuming probably not, to be honest, but since Barry's not in this, I'm assuming his daughter Moira Burton probably isn't showing up in a sequel.
probably.
To be fair, she wasn't in the games until Revelations 2. Well, I guess that's not true. There was a picture of her in the remake, but of the first one, but still.
Yeah. Do you honestly want them to make a sequel to this?
To be honest, probably not. Oh, I know I had trouble saying her name, but Moira's not a very common name, or at least I've never heard it before.
Right. Well, I don't know. I'm sort of wondering if Mora is short for Morgana.
Oh yeah, it could be.
That could be the case. I don't know. But what did you think of the whole orphanage angle?
I wasn't really a fan of it either, to be honest. I know there was an orphanage in the remake of Resident Evil 2, but that was just for, that's just where William put Sherry.
Yeah, that's where William put Sherry because he was working for Umbrella. Like, which was smart. If you're I think the way they introduce Sherry in this game is clever. It's really smart. But in the Resident Evil 2 remake I'm talking about, but here, like when they do the orphanage here, it's just like, why? Like, well, like, why do you gotta, why do you gotta do that?
Oh yeah, that's actually, to be honest, that's why I'm not really saying much, because not really sure what to say, because it really didn't really make total sense,
No, that's just said it didn't. It's like it does. It makes, again, if you're gonna have one of them, I can understand having one of the siblings in an orphanage. Like maybe it's Chris, maybe it's Claire, but not both, or better yet, not at all. you know, or just don't have an orphanage. It feels like the orphanage was just added for fans, people like me and you who are fans of the Resident Evil 2 game, the remake. If we're fans of that game, oh hey, they got the orphanage from part two. Oh, that's cool. Then you see what they do with it, and it's like, oh no, that's not cool.
Oh yeah, sure. Oh,
What
how
did
did
you?
you feel about them? Okay.
No, go ahead.
How did you feel about them not introducing Ada until the very end?
Um, Weird. It just. I'd rather. I'll tell you this. I would have had her. I would have had her shoot Wesker. I would have had Wesker change his mind in this, where he wants he he decides to, instead of taking it for the money, instead of accepting the money, he says, you know what, fuck it, I've done so much damage, I've allowed this city to be. He tells his team what he did, and he says, you can arrest me after this, but you got to help me stop this now. You got to help me destroy this shit, and because they'll come for it and they'll use it. And so they do, but as they're like fighting Birkin, Ada shoots him in the back, like like kills him, and she does it with a silencer, so no one hears her. And she comes out and steals the case and gets away, and no one knows where the case is. Like she stole the last of the servant. Like that, I would have liked, but they didn't do that.
Yeah.
I have my own fantasy scenario. What I would like to see. It's Here's the thing too. It made no sense to now Wesker came back to life. Now they resurrected the dead. So he's not. He goes, "Am I human?" And she's like, "Not exactly. you're not. You're not." Okay. Yeah, I kind of figured, when you brought a dead guy back to life, he's not necessarily human anymore. It's sort of like the Barnabas Collins thing. Once he died, once he died, okay, he died. Well, when he opens his eyes back up, he's not necessarily living anymore. He's undead.
That's true. For those that don't know who that is, well, I guess if you're listening to a video on this channel, you probably do. But Barnabas Collins is from Dark Shadows.
Yeah, yeah, he's from Dark Shadows. Hey, are you how far along are you on that, by the way?
Oh, I actually just got done watching. Well, not literally, but a few days ago, I got done watching episode 281. I mean 280. Sorry.
Nice, nice. Pretty well. You've already met Dr. Julia Hoffman, I take it.
Well, the reason. Oh yeah. The reason I said 281 is I'm on 281, because that's what I'm gonna watch next.
Yeah, the I want to talk to you about that before you get to 1795. So I'll be bringing you on about that soon. But shit, when you get to episode 361, let me know, because that's right before the say. That's like I think an episode or two before the seance happens. So let me know when you get to that episode.
Okay. Well, for those
But
of you who, for those of you that don't follow Jewel normally, you should totally check out Dark Shadows. It's one of those shows that's hard not to binge watch.
It is. It was made for binge watching. Really, that's the thing. Like, I have the Coffin box set, and like when I'm not watching the Coffin box set, I'll throw it on Tubi. And my wife's like, "Why did I even buy the Coffin box set?" I said, "Because we had to give Dark Shadows our money." But so like, here's the thing. I'm in 1897, like the 1897 arc. I'm back there, and I'm still there. I need to move along from there. But next is the Leviathan arc, and let me tell you, that shit gets real creepy. Um, the breathing is just fucking. It makes your skin crawl.
Oh wow.
But it's a really like it's an interesting arc. I do feel I won't spoil it for you. But anyway, back to Resident Evil. We um, what did you think of what did you think of William Birkin in this?
To be honest, I didn't really have that much of an opinion on him. Like he seemed okay for the most part.
Yeah,
How'd you feel about him?
I think he was a good heel, but I think I think what hurts him. I don't think he's a bad heel, but I think there's things they do that hurt him as one. Where like him running an orphanage, like him experimenting on kids, that is sick. Like if they would have if they would have had him just experiment on kids and not have one of them be Chris or Claire, that would have been sick as hell. Like him injecting them, seeing how they turn out and shit, and then you see some of the, like have have the orphanage go underneath the ground, and they have these holding cells, and you see some of the kids have turned into zombies or turned into monsters. If you would have showed me that shit, that I'd have hated that motherfucker.
Oh yeah, yeah, that's understandable. I know
You
he did
know?
experiment on his daughter, and see that's another thing they could have done, like how they made Claire like know about Lisa Trevor, but that would have made more sense with Sherry because Sherry was experimented on, and that's what happened to Lisa as well. She was also she was experimented on by Umbrella.
Yeah, that's the thing too. Like, if you're going to conduct these experiments, then again, my understanding is when you were conducting experiments, well, something either went. Okay, we're supposed to know that something went wrong in the mansion. Well, what the hell went wrong? Like, exactly. Like, it doesn't say what went wrong up in the mansion at all. Like, it just, okay, did somebody inject themselves with, it doesn't explain shit with that, I don't think, in the movie, unless I'm forgetting something. But again, this movie's pretty forgettable.
That's
But
true.
I don't, again, did one of the people who were helping him, who are that's my understanding too, that the mansion connects to his lab too. That's the thing. He goes in there, and he goes up to the mansion. Like, Wesker opens the secret path, and he goes in, and he goes into the guy's laboratory, which is down in there. Okay, that I get. Okay, if that's the case, then did one of the people who were helping him take the serum to see what it would do to himself? I mean, it doesn't say.
Oh yeah, that's a good point. And actually, Lisa Trevor, I don't know what's up with what they did with her. I don't know if you've ever read the file about her in the files about her in the game, but for those that don't know, she's from the remake of the first one. I know I said that before, but she's not in the first one, but the actual first one. But it's kind of messed up. One thing she did, like she was, experimenting on, she started losing her mind, and one thing that was messed up is her mom died, but they didn't tell her. So they got a lady that looked like her mom. So she actually thought the lady stole her mom's face and ripped the lady's face off.
Yeah.
We want to give it back to her mom, but then unfortunately later on in the game, she actually finds her mom's grave and then basically commits suicide.
Yeah, I don't understand like the point of like having all these characters in this story, and even Chief Irons is sort of pointless in this story. Like he seems to know. uh, It's not really made clear if he knew what was going on with Umbrella or not.
Well, that's true.
Like that's another thing. It's like, okay, he's acting like he knew, so I guess you're best to assume he did. But then he doesn't get out on time. He doesn't. He doesn't make sure to get out. Again, it makes the character seem stupid.
That's true.
You know, it just a lot of these characters get dumbed down. The movie just drag like it doesn't drag, but it's I won't say it's unwatchable. It's not that, but it's pretty. It's almost. There's again, it has good moments. I just wish they would have told a proper story, a
Well, I agree.
a better one.
And actually, yeah, the thing about the Lisa Trevor thing is how they did in the game when she went to her mom's grave. They wanted to change it. They could and do the orphan thing. They should have used that, like how Claire and Leon, like how she's in the police station. So it's Claire and Leon. They could have had Claire like see her go to her mom's grave and say like, "I know how you feel. I lost my mom too," or something like that.
Yeah, like my understanding is like the if they're gonna experiment on Lisa Trevor, then okay, have her be more messed up. You know what I mean?
That's true. And
Have her
I think I meant okay.
have her turn into an actual monster. You know?
That's true. And actually, I think I may have mentioned this before. I think I even mentioned it when I pitched the reboot. I think that was one of my first YouTube videos, but I actually wanted them to have Lisa Trevor in the movie
Yeah.
because she's such an interesting character.
I do think that. Well, here's the thing too. If you're gonna include Lisa Trevor in the story, like Lisa Trevor, the reason Lisa Trevor is important is because her blood type holds the one antibody that cures the virus. So she has such a rare blood type, and her because her parents had this, like her mom had the same blood type. So her and her mom, their blood is used as the antibody. That's something they could do.
And yet and you're right, they should have made her more messed up. And actually, what's in the game, you can't actually kill her. I don't think they even did anything with that, did they?
I don't think.
I think that could have done something like that, like have like them shoot at her, but nothing worked or something.
The here's they need to give an option in the Resident Evil remake where you can try to shoot Wesker earlier. I guarantee you 99.9% of everybody is taking that one.
Oh, that's true.
Like cap his ass. Oh my god. Uh, But yeah, this I give the Dark. I don't know. You haven't seen the 2012 Dark Shadows movie, and I give that a 2 out of 10. Like even with the sets and stuff, like I like the sets in that movie, and I like some things in this movie, just not enough. I'm going to give it the same rating, 2 out of 10.
Yeah, I'd probably say about that. See, for those that don't, for those who haven't watched my reviews, I usually don't actually do the whole, 2 out of 10 thing. I agree with that rating because it sounds about right. But I just say if I like it or not because I'm not really that good at that system.
it, it, trust me, I usually spot like I've changed this a bit. I usually spot 6 for acting.
Oh yeah,
Now with the way things are being written, I spot 5, and like so you got to impress like your character better be really well written for me to like that. But it just My God. Now
With how
here's a plus side for this. Because they're still making video game movies, Sonic 2 did really well. So I do think eventually we'll get another Resident Evil movie. Do
oh
you?
yeah. I don't know honestly because they could, but would people really want another reboot? You know?
I know that's the thing too. That's. I think they've. I won't say they've killed it as a movie franchise because maybe like 10, 20 years from now somebody say, you know what, it's time to try it again. But I don't think it'll be anytime soon. I do think that you're seeing good success with video game movies. I do think they need to get the right set of people behind a Resident Evil movie to do it.
Oh yeah, I agree. Now, Paul W. Sanderson was an executive producer of this movie. Do you think that played a role with how it turned out?
You know, I would love nothing better than to pin it on him, but I can't. I can't because I do now. I'll say this: I do think that the studio who's done this movie has no idea what the hell they're doing.
Oh, yeah, that's true. And they're the same one that made the other movies. And Constantine Films, I'm probably pronouncing it wrong, but either Constantine or Constantine, but I think it's pronounced like teen, you know.
Yeah, it's Constantine Films, I think. Hello?
Oh, sorry, are you still there?
Yeah, I'm still here. I was waiting. I didn't know if you were like finished saying what you were saying.
Sorry about that. I will admit though, at least this movie is better than the Paul W. Sanderson movies.
Yeah. I again though too. I think they used him. I think they put his name as a producer just to have the excuse of, hey, if this is bad, we can just point the finger at him. But the people who wrote, he didn't write this one. You know what I mean? Like that's what gets me. It's like the writers and yeah, the producers and even the director are all at fault. Like there's a lot of guilty parties in this. It's not just one. I think across the board, these people just made a bad movie, and that's the thing too. Like when you make a Resident Evil movie, yeah, you can appeal to me and Daniel, but you need to appeal to the people who haven't played the games too, and you need to find a way to do that.
Oh yeah, it's true. You also have to be careful, like for those that don't know, you have to be a little careful, like blaming the executive producer anyway, because for those that don't know, Akira Toriyama, the creator of Dragon Ball, was supposedly the executive producer of Dragon Ball Evolution, and I say supposedly because they didn't listen to him.
Let me tell you that there. Uh, at least think about it this way. At least that piece of shit movie that they did inspired him to write more shit.
Oh yeah, it's true. Yeah, for those that don't know, that's actually true. Like basically, it was so bad that he decided to come out of retirement. That's why Dragon Ball Z Battle of Gods was created, and that led to the creation. That eventually led to Dragon Ball Super.
Yeah, it's like, damn, he. I'm sort of wondering, like, will they like if they do another Dragon Ball movie? Would they just? To me, if it were me and you, we'd probably just say have him write it, you know.
Oh yeah, that's
And
true.
that's sort of my solution too. It's like, well, just have Akira Toriyama write it. Like, who the? Because I mean, okay, I could see like if it were you, you know the product, okay, but that's the thing. You need someone who knows the product and what it is, too, not just somebody who hears the name and hears some of the concept and go, oh, we can make a quick buck with that. Like, okay, well, if you want to make a buck, money, write it good.
That's true. Yeah, for those that don't know, the guy that wrote Dragon Ball Evolution, Ben Ramsey, actually didn't know much about Dragon Ball. He actually admitted that he only did it for money, and I think we may have mentioned this before, but he actually even apologized for that.
See, see, see. At least you got an apology. There are Dark Shadows fans still waiting for. Who's that guy that wrote or that produced it? He's the one who wrote the 2012 Dark Shadows movie. I forget the writer's name, but yeah, that guy. Yeah, we're still waiting for his apology.
Is that Tim Burton or is that someone else?
No, Tim Burton didn't write Dark Shadows. He just directed it.
Okay, I was like a little confused because I was thinking to myself, he didn't, wasn't involved with it as far as I knew, but you never know.
No, the guy's going on to be a producer because he's written other things that were successful, but he couldn't write about a vampire. And it's
Oh.
like Jesus. It's like how do you fuck this up? Like
Actually, was it the old it or the new it? If you don't mind me asking.
it was the new one.
Oh, I'm actually surprised. The new one was actually good. Well,
Like
I mean, the old.
I forget his name, but it'll come to me like after we finish here. But it's like he wrote the 2012 Dark Shadows movie, and it's like, what the hell?
Yeah, for those wondering why we're forgetting names, remember we're having a discussion on Skype. We're not like, like on Wikipedia or something.
We don't got nothing pulled up here. Listen, it's like I'll blank on his name. His name's not worth remembering.
Yeah, and actually, the funny part is it's not really a good example for me because I think of it being a Stephen King movie since that's who wrote the book.
Right, that's the thing too. Like, see, though, I'll say this: there was a period in the '90s where Stephen King movies weren't going to theaters; they were going to television. Like, The Shining one was a television event. Stephen King's It was a television event. Storm of the Century was a television event. And those are some really good movies. I mean, they're great. And that's what gets me too. It's like, so when they said they were rebooting, to me, Warner Brothers remaking it is just them admitting they should have fucking backed it to theater. That's all that was for me. It's like, I'm not taking anything away from what they did with the first one. I mean, it's good. I've seen it. But at the same time, it's like, man, these are all just fucking admitting that if you would have, backed the first one, what you should have did, like you should have, then it would have had success in the theaters too, because it had huge ratings on television. Everybody was watching that.
But yeah, I think the first adaptation is pretty good too.
Uh, like I had my grandparents watching that. My grandfather's like, "You watching this killer clown?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm watching."
Oh yeah. Now I actually prefer the clown in the first adaptation because he looks more like an actual clown.
Yeah, I think that's the thing too. Like Tim Curry, holy shit, what an actor!
I could be wrong though, but didn't Stephen King himself hate the first adaptation probably because of the whole backing and all that stuff though?
That's the thing. Like John Carpenter and Stephen King are a lot alike. Stephen King don't like half of the movies that were made of his books. Like I know he likes the Dead Zone, and I think for the biggest part, he doesn't like over half the discography, the film he doesn't like. I know he hated Christine. Like he dogged John Carpenter's Christine for years.
Oh
Like
wow.
then he changed his mind on it. It's like, so I don't know what the hell. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know why he doesn't like half of the, 'cause some of the movies are really good. Like the original Pet Cemetery is good, you know.
I think he
And
does. I could be wrong, but I think one of the major reasons is because they don't always follow the story. You know how adaptations are.
right, but that's the thing though too. Like like I love the original Shining, and there are people who have read, and I read the book later and still liked it, and it's like, and there are people like, well, the original Shining ruined the adaptation of the book. No, it really didn't. It really didn't. It just it's its own adaptation of that book, and that's the thing. When you, I don't mind an adaptation that strays a little to the point of it's so good cinematography and story wise. Holy shit! It was as good as it wasn't. It may not have been as it may not have been better than the book, but it's as good as it. Like look at The Godfather. Okay, The Godfather was a book first. Well, the fucking movie's so awesome. It's like holy shit.
Oh yeah, I could see that. I've never read The Godfather. To be honest, I'm not really that big of a reader, but you know, I can
Yeah,
see that. But also, a lot of people don't know it's like the new they said it's more faithful to the book. It's more faithful than the first adaptation, but there's still a lot of differences.
yeah. Like, well, here's the thing too. Storm of the Century wasn't a book first. That's the thing too with that one too. He
Oh,
wrote he
I
wrote
know.
that as a television, like he wrote that for television. So it's like that one he likes, and it's like I guarantee you, if he'd have made that a book first, or he'd have buried the shit out of it.
Well, that's true. Oh, did you ever hear about his other books that he wrote under a fake name?
Nah. Well, here's the thing. I don't know if you. Stephen King is a huge Dark Shadows fan. Okay, so he he watches a television series where there's a haunted house. You know, here's Collinwood. It's haunted. He writes a story called The Shining about a haunted house.
Oh yeah, I didn't know he was a Dark Shadows fan, but that doesn't actually shock me though, because if you ever heard of another author named H.P. Lovecraft, this is like from like the 30s. Actually, if you ever heard of Cthulhu, that was one of his creations. Stephen King's
Yeah,
a big fan of him too.
yeah, I've heard of H.P. Lovecraft. Actually, it's funny you say that. The Leviathan are supposed to be taken from Lovecraft.
I went out. I know his writing style. I mean, I can't believe I just said that. I know his writing style is actually called Lovecraftian as well.
Yeah, yeah, I've heard of him. Now I'll say this though too. Like to me, if they do another adaptation of Resident Evil, please, for the love of God, don't fuck it up. I mean, it's just I don't know what the new Netflix series is gonna be, and it's like I'm even scared to watch that.
Oh, that's understandable. But in my opinion, I think Constantine Film needs to lose the rights to the franchise.
Yeah, I don't understand why that. Yeah, I think I can't see how Sony could be happy with them. You know, the movie didn't do well. I mean, so I can't see how they could be happy with him. You would think they'd be like, "Hey, this is another Resident Evil movie that bombed. It bombed. Yeah, you
Yeah,
gotta
yeah.
you gotta do something." So
Actually, I'm kind of surprised it bombed, to be honest, because even the official Facebook page of Resident Evil actually mentioned this movie. And I don't know if you know, they didn't ever talk about the Paul W.S. Anderson movies. For those that don't know, Resident Evil has two pages on Facebook. The main one, which is more of the games, and
yeah,
then they have Resident Evil movie.
yeah. They mention this one. They don't mention the Paul W. S. Anderson movies because they're not going to either. But they're probably
I
not
just thought
going.
I just thought of a bad way this could have ended. What if this ended exact? What if this was the exact movie they made, but ended with Alice waking up?
You know what, that would have made sense at least
Well, yeah, sure.
because it'd have all been a dream.
Oh, speaking of which, did you hear that fan theory where they said that where it says that the Paul W. Sanderson movies? Well, this theory came out before the Welcome to Raccoon City did, but the theory says that the movies are actually just a simulation that Umbrella made in case the virus ever got out.
I've never heard that, but that's a hell of a theory. I'll say that.
I agree. I don't fully agree with it though because it doesn't entirely make sense. It's kind of weird that they portray themselves as the bad guys in their own simulation. Also, the first movie took place in 2002, and the first game took place in 1998. So it'd be kind of weird the simulations in the future too.
Well, here's the thing too. Like, how do you justify a simulation that you're running? You would have to run the simulation at that year, right? That's the thing. So if let's say, for argument's sake, let's say the simulation started the same year as the movie. Well, okay, you're running the simulation in that year, and you're watching this thing play out. As it's getting worse and worse, and wouldn't you eventually just stop the simulation before that long and realize, okay, how badly you fucked up?
Oh yeah, that's a good point.
You know what I mean? Like, like, do you really need to see the end all conclusion?
Oh yeah, it's true. Oh, another thing, I actually saw someone say that Welcome to Raccoon City got the date right. Technically, no, because the first game said July 1998. The Welcome to Raccoon City takes place in September 1998, but also the Raccoon City incident takes place within months. It doesn't take. It's not like a single day.
Right. That's what gets me too. It's like this movie's taking place all in one day. Like it's not that's another that's where its real problem is too. It's all happening like right at this moment, instead of it spanning, like, okay, this happened, the mansion incident happened here. It happened, we'll say 6 months ago. Okay, well, 6 months later, this happened, and now this is the condition we're in. Did they do that? Nope. No.
No, they did not.
It's,
Yeah, yeah.
I swear one day me and Daniel are going to come on here. We're going to have positive things to say about a Resident Evil.
Oh yeah, hopefully. Oh, actually, another thing is, did you feel it had to take place in 1998?
No, I don't think it had to.
Okay.
Well, here's the thing with that though too. If you're not going to have it take place in 1998, or if you, well, I'll do if you are first. If you are, and you start this off just in Raccoon City, say about the mansion incident happening, we'll say almost a year prior, you know, and, or, 7 months prior. Or if you're not going to have it set in 1998, have it set in maybe in the year 2000, because maybe in their version, now we know Y2K didn't happen, but let's play devil's advocate. What if fictionally it did, and it caused like electronics to crash and things to crash, and that's how that, in some weird way, because of the electronics failing, they trusted electronics to, like, with the virus, and let's say a mechanical thing that picked up a virus file, dropped the vial, broke, and that's how part of the infection spread. Again, that's something they could have did.
Yeah, that actually sounds pretty cool. Um, I don't know how I feel about it because 1998 is when the first game takes place, but the thing is, when the game came out, the year was 1996. So 1998 was actually the future when the game came out.
Yep.
Well, another
Yeah.
thing I wanted to mention is, did you feel this seemed kind of like it was marketed as a prequel?
Um. Oh, when they said about that they were including the mansion. I sort of want, again, me and you were talking on Facebook. How were they going to do that? So, like, that's sort of, was this going to be like where somebody is explaining what happened in the mansion and we're already at the point of they're fucked? You know what I mean? You and I were talking about this on Facebook, a while back ago. So, in a sense, I sort of thought it was sort of like like a sequel prequel thing where somebody's. I thought this would be somebody like maybe a Jill or a Chris or Jill explaining how the hell we got to the point of there's zombies all over the city's in ruins, like explaining how we got to this point and how it got so bad.
Oh yeah, I could see that. But it kind of seems like if someone didn't know about the games, they might mistakenly think this is a prequel to the other movies.
They might. Here's the thing, though, too. They might, that. I mean, I could see that too. I mean, it it really. Again, it's a movie that doesn't stay focused on one specific thing. It's all over the place because I don't think combining two games was a problem, but they made it a problem for themselves.
Oh, yeah, sure. I don't know if you know this, but the first movie in the Paul W.S. Anderson movies was supposed to be a prequel of the games. So I don't know if you ever knew about that.
No, I didn't. I will tell you this though. I saw that one in theater.
Oh yeah, I think you were telling me about that once. Like when they called a liquor a hunter, you said the audience said no, that's a liquor.
Yeah, here I'm like, I'm in the theater. This is the only time I've ever hollered out in a theater, and my brother's sitting next to me. I was like, "God damn it, that, that's not what that is. That's a liquor. God damn it, that's not a hunter. A hunter is a frog." My brother's like, "No one cares." I'm like, "You do. I do." He's like, "Yeah, but we don't matter." I'm just what the fuck? I just shook my head. I'm like, well, how did they get that wrong?
I don't get that either.
Well, here's the thing. He's one to talk to because when I see he hollered out before me. I forgot to tell you this. We're there in the room, the hallway where the lasers are, and the lasers kill half the team. Like, he's like, what the fuck?
Oh yeah,
He hollered that out, and I'm just like, oh, oh. But when I
oh yeah,
holler out about the liquor, he's later on. He's like, it's a. I'm like,
oh yeah.
oh my god. But yeah, that's. I'll give Paul this. I think he made a first entertaining movie. It was entertaining to watch, but again, I just think there's things you have to know when to hit a salvage button. It's one thing to take the first game and try to tell it different in your own way. It really is. But if you're going to tell it different to the degree that, hey, Umbrella knows what's going on, and which I could see, the games have sort of made that clear too, that Umbrella knows what's going on, that they have resources to wipe out their enemies, which is okay, I get. But at the same time, you had when you're doing that in the movie, okay, what with Paul W.S. Anderson's movie, with his movie, when they did part two, them monitoring the events in Raccoon City, it made sense. But then again, it's like once you introduce the familiar characters, okay, those are the characters you need to tell a story with. If they would have killed Alice off in that movie, I would have been happy because well, now we're getting this story. But no, they didn't do that. They didn't do that.
That's true. And actually, the prequel thing wouldn't have worked anyway because, as we discussed before, the first game took place in July 1998. But there's a newspaper at the end of the first movie that says 2002. So there's no way it could be a prequel.
Right. It's not a prequel. So I do think this newer movie people could mistake as a prequel, but I don't think they're going to. I just think that that's something they could do. I'll say this, that I really wish they would have put more investment into actually telling a good story and not giving you a bunch of characters. Some of them are forgettable, some of them are okay and good. Just, I don't know. It's, this. It's frustrating to watch a franchise you love and they make a movie and it's not good.
Well, that's true. And yeah, even the Paul W. Sanderson movies ended very strangely. Like, I think I may have told you this before, but it's actually revealed in the last movie that Alice is a clone of Alicia Marcus, who was James Marcus's daughter, but she's literally introduced in the last movie. And actually, what's weird is, you know how in the second movie they said that, Ashley's dad created the virus to help his daughter? I mean, yeah,
Yeah.
to help Ashley. That's been changed. Now it was created by James to help Alicia.
Is there a, is there a movie you want to see remade?
Um, that's a good question. I'm not really sure. I'm not really a big fan of remakes, to be honest.
I know it's been remade once in the 80s, but I want to see another adaptation of Cat People.
Oh yeah.
And this time, had like cast like all these beautiful looking women, and you have like Andy Matichak walk into a bar, and she's looking at this other woman who's with this man, and they get into like a fight, and they're like scratching at each other and shit, and it's like, what the hell? Like, that would be great, like, because they're cats, they can turn into cats.
Oh yeah. That's kind of cool.
And like to have the guys be like, what? Why the hell are these women fighting?
Well, I actually thought of one, but the problem is there's already so many Frankenstein movies already. But I wouldn't mind if they remade Frankenstein, but made it more faithful to the book. For those that don't know, in the book, the monster is actually intelligent and can speak normally.
Yeah, Mary Shelley's Frankenstein is a really good movie.
I know there is one that's kind of close. That might be the one you're talking about. I think it was from 1995.
Yeah.
But there's still some differences. I know that's kind of inevitable. There's gonna be differences, but like, he didn't really have a bride in the book. What's kind of complicated. In the book, he sort of had a bride. Like, Frankenstein was actually building him a bride, but decided to scrap her at the last minute because, you see, in the book he was afraid of the monster, so he was worried that they would actually create a new species.
It's I'll say this, like, I wouldn't mind Frankenstein being done either. I mean, they're both, listen, they were both, Universal was supposed to do this the dark universe or whatever, and well, they haven't really gotten that off the ground too well.
Oh, that's true. Oh, I know this wouldn't really be a remake, but I wouldn't mind a true adaptation of Assassin's Creed. For those that don't know, the Assassin's Creed movie is actually in the same universe as the games. And I have no problem with that. I actually am glad they did it, but I wouldn't mind if they actually did Altair's story this time.
Yeah, I, I actually liked the movie.
Yeah, I liked it too, actually. I know a lot of people hate it, but I don't think a lot of people understand that it's not an adaptation. It's actually, like I said, it's. I know it's weird. It's actually a sequel, even though it's a movie. I know it's kind of weird.
Right. I think they did a really good job telling it, though. I mean, they actually did that one right, and people bitch about it.
That's true. course, there is one flaw. Like when they're showing his ancestors, he was speaking Spanish. This is a contradiction in the game because in the games they said that the animus translates it, but maybe that model doesn't. I don't know.
I think that's something they changed in the movie. You know what I mean? Because we've talked about how adaptations don't do exactly as the game, which I could like if you're trying to learn about your ancestry and you're trying to learn about your past and your ancestors speak Spanish and you're speaking through them, well you might fluently pick it up, you know what I mean?
That's true. And actually, another thing I liked is they had Michael Fassbender. He actually played his ancestor and the main character. That's actually something they did in the games. See, in the games, it starts off with Desmond Miles, and he goes and visits Altair, his ancestor. But see, they use the same face for both characters.
Yeah.
Oh, but actually, what's kind of cool about that as well is Michael Fassbender actually didn't know about the games, but to get into character, he actually played the games.
Yeah, he said about that too. I remember reading that. He did a really good job.
Oh yeah, I agree.
But yeah, I do hope we get a faithful adaptation of Resident Evil one day. It's crazy that that once again, well, they did not deliver. But is
Oh
there
yeah, sure.
anything you want to add before we go?
But one thing with Assassin's Creed though, they did ever make a true adaptation. The one problem, and this is actually something I was worried about when they announced there was going to be a movie. See, the old games kind of went off the 2012 theory, but maybe they could actually change that by saying like the world's about to end soon instead.
Yeah, I could see that. I could see that. That would be cool.
I don't know if you know what happens, but yeah, in the Assassin's Creed lore, the reason the reason 2012 well 2012 technically was going to happen, but the reason the world didn't end is Desmond Miles, the guy in the present day, sacrificed himself.
The Yeah, they mentioned his death in other games too.
Oh yeah, yeah, that's understandable. He was actually, it's kind of complicated for those that don't know. Like, yeah, like he visits other ancestors. Like in two, he actually visits Ezio, who's in the Renaissance. And Ezio actually gets 3 games. He also has Brotherhood and Revelations. And then in 3, he actually visits his other ancestor, Connor. He's actually like in the Mohawk tribe. I don't remember what his real name is, but they call him Connor. And
Yeah,
3 is when he sacrifices himself.
yeah, that's cool, man. I like that.
Oh yeah, I do too.
But we discussed Welcome to Raccoon City. We also discussed some other things. For Daniel Culver, his link to his channel will be in the description box. Man, it is always a pleasure to have you on. Take
Well,
care.
thanks. Yeah, you too.
All right, bye bye.